Darren Aronofsky is a fascinating director. Whether he's amplifying biblical stories to the cinematic realm or innovating the craft with various editing and directorial techniques, he has been a constant source of analysis for many film fans. This video marks the beginning of a series on the channel. As you may have seen by the title, the series is named Origins, and starting with Aronofsky and traversing the seas of filmmakers across the world, every video will take a look at a director's first ever film in comparison to the rest of their filmography. Now, I'm not interested in comparing quality relative to improvement in camera work or budget, but rather trying to see if that filmmaker's now renowned aesthetic was anywhere to be found in their feature-length directorial debut. Without further ado, let's see what Aronofsky's Pi tells us about the rest of his filmography. Now, spoilers may occur for Black Swan, The Wrestler, Requiem for a Dream, Mother, and of course Pi, so be wary. Pi is a pretty tough film to dissect and crack into, purely because its subject matter is literally about decoding an indecipherable mathematical equation. What we can analyse, however, is how Aronofsky presents and frames this obsession with numbers. In fact, all of Aronofsky's films can be linked back to the theme of obsession and addiction. Most of this arrives from his characters wanting to be the best in their craft because they've lost everything else around them. Black Swan chronicles a ballet dancer whose commitment to Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake leads to a descent into madness and psychotic break. Even if we take a look at his previous film, The Wrestler, a similar pattern is evident. Here though, it's about a retired wrestler whose questionable choices in the past have led to him trying to force a return back into the ring despite suffering from multiple health problems. A quick run through of all of his films reveals this common thread. The Fountain is about a man's obsession with mortality and finding a cure for his wife's cancer. Noah is pretty self-explanatory, and Mother, for all its jarring metaphors and heavy-handed explanations, is, on face value at least, the story of a man trying to recreate a biblical tale through his wife's pregnancy. Where obsession doesn't really exist is in Requiem for a Dream. However, addiction runs extremely close thematically and operates in the same way as the aforementioned films. Pi is where this began, this 20-year cinematic odyssey of exploring the ramifications of obsession and the journey of a character's descent into madness. Aronofsky blurs the lines of reality so effortlessly in his 1998 debut that we often are unsure of whether events are occurring or not. The most startling and burning frame of the entire film is when our protagonist, Max, pierces his head with a drill. Whether the character's psychotic subconscious was thinking this, or it actually happened, what's important is that it shows the desperation and pitfalls of how unhealthy obsession can be. It's fascinating how this one frame ripples throughout Aronofsky's body of work. When Nina is performing her dance in the final moments of Black Swan, she's bleeding, her face showing signs of elation and pain. The interposed white screen alludes to her dying, but due to her erratic mind, we never really know what her final words mean. We can theorize, and there are plenty of essays out there, but those essays exist because Aronofsky framed mania and obsession to such perfection that the audience are left confused. And that's what I love about Aronofsky's movies. The ambiguous endings, the impenetrable scenes, they don't exist because he wants to be different or to do something different. They exist as a byproduct of the characters he puts in front of us. He started this study with Pi's Max all the way through to Mother's Mother. Aronofsky draws the line between passion and sheer insanity in a manner that makes the audience question their own interests and how much they devote to them. By frequently placing his characters in the sheer insanity category, he manages to create pictures that are tense and frightening. Another trademark of Aronofsky's cinematic style is his penchant for philosophy, religion, and the theme of God. While Noah and Mother are on-the-nose examinations of religion and the relationship to God, his other movies tackle this idea in more nuanced ways. Once again, it's in Pi where we start to get a feel for this idea. Max's obsession with equations leads to him alienating those around him, deeming them to be on a plane of intelligence below his. The only person he communicates with is Sol, an academic who once treaded the same path as Max. He compares him to Icarus, he who flew too close to the sun. Max's aim is to solve this equation to find an explanation for universal patterns in nature, By seeking this, he becomes guilty of a messiah complex, attempting, in vain by the end of the film, to be the one who enlightened the masses of the world around them. This ripples throughout Aronofsky's entire filmography, reaching an apt crescendo 20 years later with Mother. While it's difficult discussing the meaning of this film without bumping in and out of theories, we can at least view it somewhat as the tale of a man playing God and enacting a biblical story to appease his messiah complex. Even The Fountain touches on this through a character obsessed with reversing the fate of his dying wife and trying to alter a circle of life that has permeated our world for hundreds of thousands of years. This, of course, ties back into the theme of obsession. What's wonderfully captivating about Aronofsky's movies is that all the themes tie together to create what I like to call paranoid filmmaking. Everything melts together to create this anxiety and fidgeting impatience and frustration in the characters that in turn offers the audience a riveting, heart-clenching experience. It's fascinating to watch Mother and see all of the finesse and elegance in Aronofsky's camera work. He ensured that they had constant 360-degree shots of every scene, which meant they could move around the house with very few stops. What we get in the final product is this visually dizzying exploration of paranoia and desperation, where a constant moving camera strips our main character of any breathing room. While paranoid filmmaking has always been at the heart of Aronofsky's work, Mother is perhaps the first film of his to present that in an extremely elegant, flowing manner. Pi was chock full of shaky cam, scattered shots and extreme close-ups that helped to present the chaos in Max's mind and his eventual madness. This could also be found in Aronofsky's follow-up film Requiem for a Dream. Even Black Swan, a film that deals with the elegance of dancing and the upper class, had a similar aesthetic to the aforementioned. One of Aronofsky's prime evolutions in his body of work is the editing of his films. Everyone waxes lyrical about Requiem for a Dream's fast-paced editing style interlaced with millisecond shots that help in creating a picture of addiction without any dialogue. Hell, I even created a video on the editing of Requiem for a Dream and its hip-hop montage. Shameless plug. What some people don't notice is that Aronofsky was toying with this editing style for years, finding innovative ways of showing the mental entrapment of its characters. In fact, the hip-hop editing style can be found for the very first time in Pi. What's interesting is that after Requiem for a Dream, Aronofsky abandoned that style entirely. It may have been due to the amateur aesthetic of it, since he now follows a more traditional pattern of editing that is less focused on telling a story, rather aiding it. Aronofsky's choice of editing in the early years of his career changed the craft of editing forever by placing emphasis on its importance in the role of visual storytelling. Although we're unable to extrapolate any colour from Pi, due to it being black and white of course, we can't really discuss the progression of the use of colour in Aronofsky's films. We can, however, discuss Aronofsky's 20-year collaboration with cinematographer Matthew Libatique. Together, the two of them have helped elevate every single film visually. Every Aronofsky film opens with a severe lack of colour, that instead balances out with warm white light, which in turn helps to introduce the characters to their environment. Rich hues are then methodically blended in to emphasise the growth in environment and story. Now, while Pi doesn't have any colour palettes to play with, it's still interesting to note how bright the lighting is in the opening of the film measured against its latter scenes. And that continues in his later works. Take the opening of Requiem for a Dream against its middle parts. And here's what Mother looks like comparatively. By slowly mixing colour hues and contrasting the lighting as the film grows in runtime, it allows Aronofsky to manipulate the mood and ambiance of the film, effectively shifting audience emotions. It's subtle, yet masterful. Plenty has changed in Aronofsky's career since the release of Pi. He's helmed films with a bigger budget, drawn career-best performances out of some of our greatest film stars, and been a hit with critics and fans alike. Yet the one thing that is synonymous with an Aronofsky movie, tension, has forever remained. And it's because his aesthetic and vision has rarely shifted, rather morphing from minute singular madness in Pi to a living, breathing house in Mother. His exploration of the human mind and nature continues to delight audiences, and I, for one, cannot wait for his next project. Hey, if you made it this far, thanks for watching. I ask that if you enjoy the first episode of the series, you click the like button and share the video around. It would help me gauge the level of interest in these videos. If you're in the mood to make some recommendations, scroll down and raid the comment section of a bunch of filmmakers you would want me to discuss in the future. If I pick that filmmaker, your comment will feature in the relevant video.